Hi, my name is Frida Stephanie Avila, and I'm going to be doing the Rise for Trauma Act for HSC420 Healthcare Policy for Professor Napier. And let's get started. The overview of the problem: there was a call to action in 2019 for children and families who were affected by violence or any type of trauma, which resulted in their altered mental health and function. Trauma such as violence or drug addiction can leave a significant impact on any person with their interpersonal trauma. As stated by Martz, when a person has repetitive experienced trauma, they're more likely to have a severe mental illness such as post-traumatic stress disorder or PTSD or a dissociative disorder. Although studies have found a connection between children being exposed to trauma and how it affects them mentally and psychologically, scientists still can't figure out why over half of children, 35 million, have had one traumatic experience and 25% have had two or more. So this is essentially saying that we need to take care of the kids as soon as their trauma happens, so they're more likely to be resilient and not develop a mental illness such as PTSD or a dissociative disorder. Oh my goodness. Sorry. Severity of the health problem: children exposed to early childhood trauma are more likely to develop a mental illness as they get older. So if they're not taken care of when they're younger, it's going to develop, there's going to be showing symptoms of a mental illness or a mental health disorder as they get farther into life. Firstly, children have experienced abuse as a child may be linked to their diagnosis with psychosis, which psychosis is a severe mental disorder in which thoughts and emotions are so impaired that contact is lost with the external reality, so they can't tell their actual reality from the reality that's going on in their head. There seems to be a higher chance of them having harmful behaviors towards themselves, the inability to socialize or get social cues, and the poor outcomes of job and educational opportunities. So even if they are offered these resources, they're less likely to thrive in them because they just don't know how. They aren't taught how to deal with the trauma that's affecting them when offered opportunities like these. Lastly, childhood and emotional abuse may also lead to higher suicide rates, poor clinical outcomes, and recurrent cyclic patterns. These children are often 3 times more likely to develop a mental illness than someone in the normal population. So the RISE part of the Rise from Trauma Act is the Resilience, Investment, Support, and Expansion from Trauma Act is a bill that was proposed with bipartisan support, which is important because it means both political parties were able to come together and finally agree on something and legislation in order to primarily help raise awareness for children who are exposed greatly to childhood trauma. The 5 senators that proposed the bill had initiated to create a task force that would allow for a national program in trauma prevention. The initiatives of this bill would include $50 million for in-school mental health programs, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services National Child Traumatic Stress Network, which raised their funding by $17 million. So children have that network that they're having as a resource, as well as, and also the in-school mental health programs that are being funded as well. A rise in physicians that would be allowed to practice in schools is important because they're going to have incentives later for them to study things like this. An increase in childhood mental health clinicians with loan repayment. As I was saying before, if child mental health clinicians study, then they will get their loans that they took out for school repaid if they choose to go into this field. The HSS-based prevention program that has a hospital child trauma interventions with those exposed to injury, death, abuse of all kinds, and helping with any mental health needs they may have. So trauma is usually going through the ER, but even then it's not as specific to more mental health aspects of it. So this is just a more specialized part of it. Improve child mental health insurance accessibility. Most of the time when people don't have insurance, they actually don't know that they can have it. They don't know that that resource is there for them. So that's usually why they don't have insurance. Directly work with communities that have experienced trauma. So that primary prevention is very essential when working with low-income communities, people of color that have their own communities, and LGBTQ communities. Promises and expected outcomes: increases workforce and resources for communities whose children are more likely to experience trauma, and groups who are included, like I said before, low income and people who lack resources for mental health rehab. The bill also received the bipartisan support, which is extremely important. Trauma-informed systems and increase in resources such as mental health clinicians. They'll have the ability to assess children who have gone through trauma easier, faster, and more effectively. The mental health programs for infants and just like early childhood development are being given grants to train so that way we have well-trained public health professionals to deal with those kinds of situations. Earlier primary prevention has proven to become more effective when treated earlier on, so the earlier you treat it, the more likely they are to succeed later in life. State policymakers are trying to improve clinical provider shortages and make sure the limited amount of resources are being properly used. So here, this is a problem with funding. The very few clinics we do have are not being properly funded, and they have a limited amount of supplies. So they're trying to make sure that that supplies isn't going to waste. Problems. Groups that usually oppose the bill were a part of the foster system and parents who create more issues by having a negative response to their child expressing traumatic symptoms or behaviors. So parents are significant for a child to bounce back from a traumatic experience, and when a parent doesn't acknowledge that, the behavior, then the child's trauma is more likely when they're going to develop mental illness or disease. Children who enter foster care often experience more than one traumatic event while in the foster care system. Most offenses are often by the people taking care of them at the time. So this is something they're trying to fix. And the next, the child welfare system is also being charged for maltreatment of young people within the system because their inability to provide safe environments for proper growth. This is referring to the person in charge of the child at the time taking advantage of them and then causing a traumatic experience. God, it froze. Intended consequences that may happen through the Rise from Trauma Act was the problem with childhood abuse and trauma is a national problem, and there's not enough funding, as stated before, that there's not enough funding for the programs that are going on right now, so we need to fix that issue primarily. This would also lead to at least one trauma not being taken care of, and more than a quarter of children being left untreated for 2 or more serious traumas, such as the 35 million that experience 1 and 25% that experience 2 or more. A problem I would see would be the fast implementation of this. The faster we get through with this bill, the more likely it is that we're going to help more people or more children with their traumas. And funding is also something that we would need. Implementation is prominent because the primary prevention is also super important when trying to help children because, again, the earlier we help them, the better off they'll be later on in life. The recommendation for the bill would be to have proper organization and education over the type of legislative bill that we are trying to pass. As stated by Murkowski, traumatic experience have an immense impact on communities, families, schools, and how a child ends up developing as an adult. One of the recommendations I would have would be to start where the root of the problem is. Again, primary prevention. The child's at-home environment programs, as mentioned by Murkowski, allow for juvenile and criminal education. Every action has consequences or rewards. And fatherhood programs would allow children in violent and trauma-filled communities to have a resource they wouldn't usually have. So in most cases, in low-income communities, it would be having a father. Social media can also be a very powerful platform when it comes to trying to pass a bill, especially in a new age of technology. Starting off in the places where the problems start would be our best bet to implement steps towards this new bill. And then here are my references. And I would just like to thank you, Professor. Thank you for listening to me today. I know I talked kind of fast for the first time, and second time and third time I recorded this, I talked too slow, so I was worried about talking too fast, and I think this one was probably my cleanest one out of all 6 takes. Thank you, Professor, for helping me along the way. I appreciate everything you do, and I hope you enjoyed my presentation. Thanks.